And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here. Joining us now is Liddy Danier. Liddy, good to have you with us.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, not bad. A little wet here. Let's talk a little bit about your new book, A Voice for Ambassador Christopher Stevens. Certainly, we mourn his loss in so much that we don't know about the former ambassador. God rest his soul.
Exactly. You know, it's been since 2012, and not too many people have talked publicly about him like I have. Wrote a book. It seems that under the presidency of Obama, everybody kept quiet about him. People got laid off from their job, like Susan Rice, and there was at the time Hillary Clinton who stepped down from being, working for in the State Department. So yeah, it's it's a little bit disappointed for me that the story is still out there, and now we have people who get new job, new opportunity. It's amazing.
Well, if you could, tell us a little bit about Chris Stevens, your fiancé, and your thoughts on his life.
So Chris Stevens was a diplomat for over 30 years and mostly based in the Middle East. And he became ambassador to Libya in 2012. It was in May 2012 and was sent over there early August, and right away asked for some more protection. Before he passed away, which was on September 11th, 2012, he had requested over 600 help. And every time it was declined. And pretty much he was on his own. And the day in Benghazi, he had just 3 people by his side, which is definitely not enough. When you are sent away on those dates in a country that it's not like, even Paris now is difficult, but, somewhere in the middle of a pleasant country, definitely. It was not peaceful at the time. And after his death, really right after his death, within 48 hours, Susan Rice came out and says that it was because of a video that was released on YouTube, but also released in the Middle East, in Egypt, that day in Cairo. And it seems so strange that because of the video that you will have 4 dead Americans. It didn't make any sense for me. So I did lots of research, called people, read a lot of articles, did research on the movie itself, and it was it actually came out in July, so a few months before he passed away, and there was really nothing, anything bad than saying, like, if it was like a French movie saying about something nasty about the French, or call them French frogs, or call them that they were not religious enough, or call them. It was not something that would have been the reason to kill Americans that day. And the movie, it was not true. It didn't come out on September 11th. It actually came out in July. So when that came out, and Susan Rice pretty much was sort of put on a vacation, let's face it. After that, she did took the fall. I do believe it was not her doing to come out
Sure.
and say,
So let's talk a little
TV.
right. So let's talk a little bit about Susan Rice and Netflix.
So with Netflix, I mean, it's not uncommon that, you know, most Hollywood people, they were for Hillary Clinton, definitely. And when I say most, because there's a lot of them that I do know personally and are still in the closet. They don't have, like I said, the coronas to come out in public and say, hey, I support Trump. But during the campaign in 2008 of President Obama, Netflix, like lots of other television and big in the industry of the movies, did, you know, give a lot of money for campaign for Mr. Obama at the time. And in 2009, Obama elevated 24 of his high-profile fundraisers to diplomatic posts, and some of them to diplomatic posts being ambassadors when they had no previous record being a diplomat. Chris Stevens was a career diplomat all his life. And becoming ambassador for him at the age of 52 was the normal course. So when you have someone like, for example, her name is Nicole Avant. Avant, it's A-V-A-N-T. And you look at her, and she's never been an ambassador, has no reason to be in politics per se. It's not that she did a good job or not, but if you research, her husband is Ted Sarandos, and he is a businessman, and he is the chief content officer for Netflix.
Right.
And he is best friend with Obama. So to me, this whole thing with Susan Rice getting a job on the board of directors at Netflix is called payback time. I did something for you, now you do something for me. I don't think, to me, I watch Netflix like many, many millions of people. I think
Sure.
they have the best product, and they also take chances with overseas. I do watch a lot of native languages from all over the world, of course, with subtitles in English on Netflix. So to me, it has to be payback time.
Well,
Someone did something to
right.
someone.
And that's a good point. But let me ask you: do you think we'll ever find out what Susan Rice covered up, what Obama covered up, what Hillary Clinton covered up, and the death of your fiance, Christopher Stevens, here at KIDO Talk Radio? What I mean, now we've got a new president in town. We've got a new Department of Justice. Holder, Lynch are out. Your thoughts as someone who loved Christopher Stevens, and you've written a book, A Voice for Ambassador J. Christopher Stevens. I mean, you love this man. You've known him. Will we ever get the truth?
I do believe, and it's really something that I always believed, even 24 hours he was dead. I believe not in my lifetime. I really don't think so. And now, granted, we have a new sheriff in town, but 3 years goes by so fast. He has President Trump has so much on his plate. I don't know if 3 years if this country needs so much from secure borders, from infrastructure, from name it. It needs to be pretty much repaired from, all around the country. So now that President Obama and his wife will most likely be host of a show on Netflix sooner than later, now that Susan Rice has a job, who knows, what is Hillary Clinton going to do? Who knows? Maybe she's going to be on Netflix too. I wouldn't be surprised.
And Bill Clinton with Cribs. You're
yes.
You're right. Anything else?
I know.
Anything else you'd like to share with us, ma'am?
So to me, I don't think in my lifetime, but what I want Chris's voice never to be forgotten, and that's why I wrote this book, A Voice for Ambassador J. Christopher Stevens, and people can find it on Amazon, Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com. I do lots of speaking engagement, and that's what I concentrate on. And God forbid, it's something someone says, okay, this is what happened. And I mean, we know what happened. I mean, we know, Clinton, Obama, they are responsible for the deaths in Libya. Definitely, no doubt. But why? Why send Chris as a sitting duck? Because nobody knows why he was sent as a sitting duck, because they know. Everybody knew. Chris, that day, 3 days before he died, he had planned to quit the State Department. He thought it was getting too tough. And, he had called his mother and said, Mom, I have a bad feeling. Also, on the day of September 11th, Sean Smith, who died also with Chris, called his mom, Patricia Smith, that day. And he said, Mom, we are all going to die tonight. There was just too much things they were saying that was just not, they knew. Everybody knew that something was going to happen. They just didn't know when and pretty much how, why. They just, did Chris knew too much at one point of what was really going on? All I'm sure is that no one was going to be allowed to go and help them. That I'm sure of.
Well, we appreciate this, and thank you very much. Lydia Danier, an actress in Tarzan. She played the role of Jane, Acapulco Heat and General Hospital. Now she hosts her own show on RAD TV called Time to Get Real. And certainly, God rest the soul of former Ambassador Christopher Stevens. You can get that book at Amazon.com. Coming up next, a few issues going on, the fight for the Second Amendment, and is it time to start listening to these kids, these Parkland survivors, or have they gone too far? I'll explain next. By the way, we do have the Kevin Miller Cash Code. Today's code, one word, is Easter. Now, you can go to KIDOTalkRadio.com, look for the cash code symbol. You will see it. Type in Easter and listen at 8:05 for your next cash code word. And today at 3:05 with Sean Hannity. The more words you get, the greater your chances are to win up to $5,000 on KIDOTalkRadio.com. KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to C3PO with Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kevin. What a great morning after Easter. Hey, all the kids are back in school. It's raining. It's an hour from now. All the kids at crosswalks. It's just time to drop the speed limit of everybody by at least 5 to 7 miles per hour, because they're the most valuable thing on the planet Earth in this state. My subject matter is, I know for a fact Brad Little took communion yesterday. He's a man of God. I watched him do it. So I would invite Mr. Labrador to wake up and smell the spring flowers blooming, and it's time for him to come forth and tell us what his agenda is. These people, these bigots that say, well, you vote for Brad Little, it's just more of the same. I've said this before. Look, whoever you are, Tommy or Labrador or anybody, it's time to wake up. We want a new governor for the next, as long as it lasts. My interest is in truth, and I'll guarantee that Brad Little's a man of the Savior Jesus. I watched him take communion, so enough said.
Well, so you're
out.
in favor. Oh, all right, there we go. Peace out. Short and sweet, the way we like it. 624, Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. He does have a good point. Many of us went to Easter Sunday services yesterday, and I don't know if on the back of my car that I have, hey, tailgate me, guys. It's Easter Sunday. I'm going to the 6 a.m. service, and somebody's tailgating me at 5:30 in the morning. And I'm thinking to myself, really? Have you ever had this happen? I'm sure. Really? We have the anti-texting campaign, really Common Sense for Cars campaign. It's Easter Sunday at 5:30 in the morning, and somebody's tailgating me on Shinden Boulevard. They're like, 4 or 5 cars. Just back to C3PO's point, how about a little sanity? Speaking of which, let's get you to work safely and on time. Our time is 6:25. Thank you, Larry. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Spring break is over. Time for people to get back to work, and of course, the silly shenanigans going on. One thing that I do want to share with you is, we're talking a little bit about just the sanity of things. If you're just tuning in, we also heard from the fiance of deceased Ambassador Chris Stevens on the cover up there and how the Obamas are taking over Netflix. And I'm thinking to myself, wouldn't it be great if, I guess the libs wouldn't ruin everything? Now, Kevin, you're being intolerant. You're name calling. No, just as you label someone what they are. You're a conservative. You're a conservative. If you're a lib, then you're a lib, right? That's the issue at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I mean, I sit back and I think to myself, there's nothing wrong with being a lib. That's the way it is. But apparently there seems to be something wrong with expressing your thoughts. And as I've said before, and Sean Hannity has been talking about, there's a situation going on with conservatives being wiped out. You take a look at Laura Ingraham now. People are pulling their advertising from her show because she innocuously said that David Hogg, whatever, Hog Wild, as the big man calls him, 4 colleges turned him down. And then she apologized for it, but that wasn't good enough for the Parkland shooting survivor, who has become the mouthpiece of the radical left. You don't go after kids. You don't do this. So you have 10 or 15 people that represent these big advertising companies pulling their ads from the Laura Ingraham show, hoping that she will go out of business. And I'm thinking to myself, that's okay, but what about these squishy corporations that are so quick to get rid of conservative America? When you look at most of the people, thank you, Ray, my camera hog. When you look at most of the people in this country, they're conservative. But you have David Hogg going after this guy, Laura Ingraham. She mocked the fact that he got rejected from 4 colleges despite a 4.2 GPA. I thought the GPA only went up to 4.0. So then he took it up a notch by calling her a bully. It's amazing what's going on here. And whether it's Media Matters, whether it's George Soros, remember they tried to get Sean Hannity. They went after Glenn Beck. They went after Donald Trump because of the NFL situation. Look what happened to Bill O'Reilly. Hogg telling Ingraham that she needs to stand down. Well, with all due respect, and we do respect freedom of speech, and you're right, it's always been a privilege. Look, this is what happened to me with Obama. That's why I'm always very sensitive to it. The idea that people can say, well, Kevin Miller, it's time for you to go. And, go I will. And you see that with Laura Ingraham. You see it with Bill O'Reilly. What did Laura Ingraham do wrong except engage in the public's theater the same way Mr. Hogg has done? But then you have Mr. Hogg going hog wild, doing his own thing. She made one tweet and 15 advertisers have pulled their plug. What does that mean? What does that say about the state of business today? That people are so heck bent on getting off the conservative bandwagon when the majority of the people in this country that are here legally voted for Mr. Trump, a conservative. And if it can happen at that level, as we found out with our friends Melanie Morgan and others, Brian Maloney, they're going after everybody. So what do? Well, I think you support conservatism. Don't you? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up next, one state decides maybe it's time for more gun laws. Is that a good thing? Would you support tighter restrictions on the Second Amendment here in the Gem State? We'll answer that question next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. And good morning. Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller's Cash Code rolling. If you missed our first Code 1 code word of the day, it is Easter. And listen at 8:05 for Code 2 and then Code 3 during the Sean Hannity Show. More details at KIDOTalkRadio.com. By the way, we are starting something, and I know Ray Amaya is very excited about this, called Thank You Thursdays. This is where we come up with something very special to give you, and this week's Thank You Thursdays will be Dennis Miller. That's right, Dennis Miller, and we'll hear from Dennis this week as well. He's got some Idaho connections, but Dennis Miller tickets, floor seats, by the way, to Dennis Miller at the Morrison Center, your chance to win on Thank You Thursdays, brought to you by, the Kevin Miller Show at KIDO Talk Radio. And next week will be Rod Stewart tickets. So we've got a lot going on here today. Just our way of saying thank you for giving us the opportunities to start your day. We're talking about David Hogg here, David Hogg. I keep wanting to say Hogue. I don't know why. I love this. Has anyone asked themselves who this guy is, David Hogg? He's the 17-year-old survivor from Parkland shooting. He's the rage of liberal news shows, slamming good people like me because I'm an NRA member and I support the Constitution. He slams Laura Ingraham, Marco Rubio, Dana Loesch, the NRA, and, of course, Trump, inferring all of us have children's bloods on our hands. By the way, he's slamming John McCain now as well. So even progressive John McCain does not bear the wrath is not spared the wrath of David Hogg. He's very articulate, now the front stage of the national audience because of his political activism. He's very knowledgeable and informed about what he's against. Absolutely not. Where did this kid come from politically? He's 17. For gosh sakes, he's way too polished for me not to ask the question. He and the left quote facts and stats that are inflated, half-truths, and false to engender emotion about gun ownership. Whatever, he's very wrong about this subject, but doesn't worry the lamestream media because he advances their hatred for guns, the Second Amendment, and this country under the Constitution. Cindy in Caldwell at KIDOTalkRadio.com. Good morning, Cindy.
Well, good morning, Kevin. It was very refreshing to have someone as articulate as that author on about Benghazi. And I just wanted to say, obviously, my sympathies and condolences, because that obviously, when you try to, as our past president, try to lead by total weakness and think that there isn't evil out there, Benghazi was quite predictable. The movie was great. She is right on. And you know what? She said something in there, will the truth ever come out? You know what, Kevin? Over the past week, I'm just going to have to say this, not to offend anyone in Boise, so I won't use that name above all names that the world has always hated. You will be on one side of this whole debate because there's no demilitarized zone. You will have your faith in humanism, moral relativism. You'll have a young man being touted when you don't have faith in Christ. Because for me, to live is Christ, to die is gain. I know who I've put my total trust in has nothing to do with watching someone, I'm not disparaging taking communion, but I believe probably Nancy Pelosi does and Mr. Biden, and that's just a whole other a thing. But I can tell you that was all tied up to the election. When we were trying to get the information out on Benghazi, we had people in Linden, Washington with signs all over the place. I'm saying from their storefronts, cover up Benghazi. You know what, Kevin? I will say what Pilate's wife said to Pilate when he said, what is truth? You don't really want to know truth in a moral, relative world. You're just going to go do with your own little sincere self exactly what you want to do, because it didn't make a darn bit of difference. I need my stuff. I am voting for the D. They don't even know who the D is, but the D seems to give them a lot of stuff. I couldn't care less. It's not like during that election that people didn't know. But you know what? When you have a seared conscience, you really don't want to know, and it's not going to make any difference. But I can tell that woman that God who died for me, when he comes back, is not the kumbaya, let everybody be loved, the global kind of thing that's going to be going on. He's coming back. And I will use, a Jew does not even say God. It's G-D. So in all holiness and reverence, he's coming back to judge the world. And Mr. David, whoever he is, you better be on the right side of eternity. And that's all I have to say about anything, not to offend the people in Boise, because you know what? I'm with Pilate's wife. I can give them the message with truth and love. But if you don't want to receive it, I just go about my business. So my condolences. I'll get the book. She's totally right on. And don't think when the other side of the dash is you are ready for eternity, he's going to say, come on in. Oh, I never did know you, whomever that may be. So we all have a chance for repentance. I hope you have a blessed day. I've had a blessed, deep, and meaningful, I don't call it Easter, I call it resurrection, because someone, Jesus dying on a cross, isn't going to get me to heaven, but boy, but that blood when it was finished, yes, I will be there. So have at it, Boise. I'm just sort of spent, but I'm ready to go out and buy that book, and we'll see who we might be able to influence with that. Kevin, you have a bright and beautiful day.
You too, Cindy. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 6:43 at KIDO Talk Radio. As we said, Thank You Thursday. Start this Thursday. Your chance to win tickets to see Dennis Miller. That's right, Dennis Miller. Now, there's no relation. All of us Millers aren't related, but Dennis Miller, world-famous comedian, will be in town at the Morrison Center, and we would like you to go. So listen to us on Thursdays. Each Thursday throughout the spring, we're going to give you a chance to win some great prizes. And again, Dennis Miller at the Morrison Center, and we'll hear from Dennis coming up this week about his thoughts about Idaho and, of course, the election of Donald Trump. Now, there are some more concerning things going on here concerning there's a caravan after caravan of folks coming in from Central America. You remember this before, that these kids that were supposedly unsecured minors, now there's another massive amount of caravans containing, well, you can't say illegals yet, but citizens of South and Central America trying to come to America before there's any type of DACA deal. So we'll get to that, and, you know, how ridiculous has our border become when, if you go by, what is it, the Ring technology, you know what I'm talking about? The Ring technology that, you know, I don't know how much it costs, but there are these cameras that you put up all over your house. People's homes seem to be more secure than our border. And then we have the media going, well, I'm going to walk across it. I mean, you don't have to be our great friend Dennis Michael Lynch to prove how porous our border is, but then apparently these folks have no respect for us because they're going to sit here and send again and again wave after wave of people that feel entitled to come here to America, to take jobs, to take resources. I don't understand why border security should not be a nonpartisan issue, right? And yet people vilify the president for it. It is troubling. Speaking of troubling, another state is considering restrictions on the Second Amendment in light of these school shootings.
The latest state to tighten gun control restrictions, Vermont. Lawmakers in the rural New England state where some have real passion for hunting, voting to raise the age for gun purchases to 21, expanding background checks for private gun sales, and banning magazines of more than 10 rounds for long guns and 15 rounds for pistols. Bump stocks devices are also outlawed. The measure now goes to Governor Phil Scott, who has shifted his stance and voiced support for some gun controls after the arrest of a Vermont teenager in February for threatening to shoot up a high school and the massacre in Florida at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. It's a change in ideology for the Republican governor, who has a 93% approval rating from the NRA in an otherwise politically liberal state that some view as pro-gun. Derek Dennis, Fox News.
Dennis, sometimes I struggle with speaking, as many people listening to KIDO Talk Radio can attest to. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. But, I mean, let's face it here. Do gun restrictions, strengthening restrictions, really make a difference? No, of course they don't make a difference, right? They don't make a difference. What do? The law, as we know, again and again and again, the lawbreakers sit back and they don't obey the law. The rest of us, well, we do. We go get our permits. We go do everything we're supposed to. And what happens next? You know what happens next. We become victims in gun-free zones. Let's have a real discussion, a real debate about the future of gun-free zones. I don't understand, in a country that was founded on God and guns, why we continue to vilify and look to disarm folks in America. We'll talk about it next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. All right. Thank you, non-cousin Dennis. Remember, Thursday, your chance to go see Dennis Miller for free, courtesy of Thank You Thursdays, only with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. A couple things going on here today. The president saying DACA is dead because the Democrats didn't care or act. Well, let's face it today. They don't have to do that because they feel that they've got the high ground on this. That they don't really want a solution to the problem. They want to continue to let it fester. So there's a lot of angst during the midterms, right? I know most of you enjoyed Easter Sunday. Maybe you went to brunch. Maybe you were looking for Easter eggs. Maybe you went to church. Maybe you did all three. Good for you. I sat around and watched the Sunday shows. Now, some people say that's work. Sometimes it's work not to get so fired up about it or to emotionally eat during the program.